Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have The Lost Town of Deepwood, Pennsylvania. So, The Lost Town of Deepwood, Pennsylvania, is a Reddit NoSleep story, and it's by the Dalek Emperor, which you may remember from such Reddit NoSleep stories as Baraska, Part 1, Part 2, and all the parts after that.
Oh, hot damn.
So this is a Baraska. So this is the author of Baraska, which had me worried when I realized who that was.
Oh yeah, what kind of shit are we gonna see in here?
Right? And it was like there was some kids in the woods in Pennsylvania looking for something in the woods. And oh no, this is gonna go horrible. And then like there was also like some foreshadowing in the story where it's like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's dive in with the our initial recommendations for this one. I'm gonna recommend this one.
I am also going to recommend this one.
Okay.
I am also going to recommend this one.
Thank you, guys. I was really worried that I was going to be the only one who liked this.
When has that ever happened?
See previous episode catalog of 500 plus episodes.
Yeah.
Because like
to you like in post going like episode 3, episode 8, episode 12, like listing all of them.
Just
like
exactly.
you have them in your head.
Yeah. Like so, because like the reason why was because like when I started reading the story for the episode, like for this week, I was like I wasn't really feeling like reading anything, and I actually really had to push myself to get into reading this because for the show specifically, and as I started reading it, my momentum just kept going exponentially. Like it zipped through the 16 pages that this story is, in like no time flat. Now, do I have criticism of the story? Of course, but I feel like my notes are also going to be pretty positive. But before we get too far ahead of myself, I guess we should start with the rundown, featuring the Katie, as we eventually find out her name.
It didn't take too long.
It took 10 I have a whole thing in my notes about it. It took 10 paragraphs for us to get her name.
All right. Never mind. It took too long. It took way too long.
It took a page and a half for us to get her name.
Maybe just because the story reads nicely, as you said. It didn't feel like it took a long time, but when you look at it, it's like, oh, okay, never mind.
It's like, that's okay, yeah. I mean, I'll give this, it was organic the way it came in. Like, it wasn't just, like, dropped on us like a ton of bricks. But anyway, so the rundown for The Lost Town of Deepwood, Pennsylvania. Katie, our narrator, is telling the tale of her time in the rural town of Middleborough, Pennsylvania, and the horror she and her friend uncovered in the woods nearby. It was 2002, and her dad was there for a few months in the summer while he opened a new store. So Katie and her mom moved out there as well while he worked there. It was in this time that Katie became friends with a local boy, Jamie, and the two 12-year-olds spent a lot of time outdoors and such, forming a friendship and awkwardly flirting as well. It was also at this time that Katie learned of a local legend, a lost sister town to that of Middleborough, that was supposedly deep in the woods, and that locals either searched for or stayed clear of. And there had even been a death, like a disappearance and death found back in like the 70s or so. In the last few days before Katie and her parents were going to move away, Katie used the duo's mutual attraction for each other to convince Jamie to go out into the woods and follow the old train tracks that led out there to search for this town. They did indeed find structures, specifically a chapel, after losing time while following the tracks, and find their way inside where things begin to get creepy, at least for Katie. The chapel had a very creeping atmosphere with strange ledgers showing the town's name, Deepwood, and also a list of names of like supposed townsfolk and such, as well as photos of people that seemingly like look down at you, judging you, and a darkly statue of Jesus crucified in the main hall of the church amidst rotting pews. As Katie is beginning to panic, especially after the back way they had just come through collapsed and they couldn't seem to get through the front door as it just wouldn't budge. Jamie seemed to have much more excitement than previously. He finds a trap door to a basement level where hot air is wafting up. And as they descend down spiral stairs, much to Katie's hesitation, they find a dark, deeper chamber. In this chamber is another statue of a demonic form that is personally indescribable by Katie, but it is horrific to be sure, with a long tail wrapping around the extent of the chamber. And that's when shit hits the fan, as the statue animates and chases the duo back up the stairs, and it's only then that Katie realizes there are strange symbols on the trap door, just like there are on the front door. They manage in the nick of time to bust open the front door of the church and flee into the woods. They are found hours later, after being gone about 10 hours, though they don't feel like it has been that long for them. Katie and her parents leave sooner than expected, and that's the last she hears from Jamie, or Middleborough for that matter. It seems that in the next few years, no trace of the town or its peoples can be found by Katie, and people like her parents don't even really remember that time or that place very well. All that she has left as evidence that Jamie was real and that place was real is a police report from that day, that when they went missing for 10 hours. And even that eventually just goes blank. Katie, as she writes this down and plans to post it online, fears that one day her memory and even this story will vanish. She also worries that they let something out in those woods that day, and that it was the cause of the town disappearing, much like the older town, Deepwood. And it's still out there, wiping towns off the map and no one remembering it. She ends this part, because yes, there are sequels to the story, wishing she had more answers than questions. Finn, for now. So, with that out of the way, let's dive into Everyone Tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions. At this point, I do have a few. So, I'm going to start with this one here. I guess this is technically dialogue, but fuck you.
Okay.
I knew you know more than you let on. I think you actually need to have a mostly come at night situation here, where it's I knew you knew more than you were letting on. So, well, I knew you knew I knew. Sorry, what was that, gamer?
Yeah, so it's like a tense situation.
Yeah, it sounds weird when it's like I knew you know more than you let on. Like that doesn't work for me. Like it actually does need to have I knew you knew.
Or I know you know.
No, because that one because she didn't know up until this point, or she had an idea, but she didn't just know. Like I don't know,
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have here. All right, I'll tell you. Geez, Katie. Jamie picked up his bike and started walking down the bike path. I grabbed mine and followed him. So this is what I said earlier. This is like 10 or so paragraphs in, and we are just now knowing Nair is in fact named Katie.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, at least it naturally appears in the story, and better late than ne'er. Better late than ne'er. I'll leave.
Crickets.
I was
Yeah.
hoping it would just be cold silence.
Yes, I was expecting it, honestly.
Yeah.
I'll move on to the next thing I have here. Jamie and I stumbled around the small nave, breaking windows on either side with pieces of wood we had found. The hell is a nave? So, noun. A nave is the central part of a church building intended to accommodate most of the congregation. In traditional Western churches, it is a rectangular separated, or it is rectangular, separated from the chancel by a step or rail, and from adjacent aisles by pillars. Also, I want to say, what the fuck is a chancel? But I'm not going to do that one because it's not in the story. So I learned a word
of learning all these new words.
of learning church words.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I learned a new word today. Nave is apparently the space where the pews are and such.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I feel like there should probably be a comma between nave and breaking, because when I was first read it, it was like, Jamie and I stumbled around the small nave, breaking windows on either side. Blah, blah, blah. I feel like it should be Jamie and I stumbled around the small nave, comma, breaking windows on either side with pieces of wood we found.
Yeah, because otherwise they're stumbling around the nave breaking.
Yeah, exactly. Small nave breaking.
What the hell's a nave breaking?
Yeah. You had something to say, Mikey?
Oh, I was just gonna say breaking wind. O's.
Yeah. Nave breaking wind. Those. Why the hell are there deer in here?
Why are they made of wind?
Well, and why are they farting all the time?
Actually, they'd be windows, so they'd be winning all the time.
Oh, God. Winning. Tiger blood. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. I didn't know you were claustrophobic. At least that's what I think, Jamie said. I better remember the horror I felt as I stared at the hole in the floor. Jamie had opened the trap door. Okay, so as you can probably guess from how I read that, I do understand what the sentence is trying to do, but personally, I would have moved better at the end of the sentence of the sentence it's in for clarity. So it's like, I didn't know you were claustrophobic. At least that's what I think Jamie said. I remember the horror I felt as I stared at the hole in the floor better. Because when I better remember, like, oh, I better remember this.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's supposed to be like, why it's in that place is like, there's like, I better remember the horror I felt in that place. Blah blah. But I feel like to fix that, it should be like better should be at the end of that sentence, just so it's like, that's what I thought Jamie said. I remember the horror better. Maybe put it before. Maybe put it after horror. It's like, I remember the horror better, or the horror I felt better as I stared at the hole in the floor. Just because like where better is placed, it is kind of confusing. Like what the intent is in this sentence. So then the next one here. Neither Jamie nor I spoke as we shuffled around room, our backs to the wall, as far away from the demon as physically possible. Ah, the return of the Baraskaism of caveman speech.
Oh yeah, this is where it came from.
Yeah, as we shuffled around the room, not as we shuffled around room. And then this one. Then we have this last one I have here. All I could feel was my own intern descent into madness. God, hate it when your interns are trapped in an eternal hell at the offices of madness.
Right? It seems like it happens every single time. And you fire one and you get another one and they just do the same thing.
I mean, well, you can't really fire an intern because like they're living for exposure, not pay.
You can tell them to get the fuck out.
That's true. Yeah.
It's the same damn thing.
You can just remove them from the premises. Yeah. You're fired. Kabam. But yeah, so all seriousness though, I think it should probably be internal. So it's like all I could feel was my own internal descent into madness.
Yes.
Mhm.
Also, is it descent? Shouldn't descent have an S before the C, so it's not decent? I just realized. I'm just looking at that the descent, how it's spelled.
Yeah, it's DESCENT.
So really, it should have been. So as it is, it reads, "All I could feel was my own intern decent into madness." My own intern decent. Decent. That poor lad
Yes.
working for exposure by walking into madness. But that is all I have for my grammar acquisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil. What do you got?
I have a conjunction junction.
Woo! And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
It was 2 stories tall and at the end of a very lonely cul-de-sac. It was pretty boring, as expected, until we heard some kid ask an employee about the lost town. It was a full 5 weeks into the summer before I finally got my questions answered. It's like a rite of passage or something for kids to go looking for it. It's easy to do, everything looks the same. And where do people look? It's pretty deep back there, but they figure that if there was another town, they would have lived by the lake. So that's where they go. And I don't know why they would lay them going back into those woods unless there was something back there, so that's where I'd go. It was the weekend before we were moving home, and my parents had a barbecue for the employees of Dad's new store and some of our neighbors. But legends don't just come from nowhere. So, do you want to go out to the woods one last time? It was the awkward first kiss of 2 12-year-olds, but it made me feel warm and sent a flight of butterflies swirling into my stomach. So, I actually really did like Jamie. It took him stumbling over the tracks to break off his monologue and finally notice the backpack. But we follow the tracks the entire time and we turn around after an hour. It would be the first and last time I ever did. It felt like we had only been walking for 45 minutes, but when Jamie checked his watch, it had been 3 hours. It says it's 5 o'clock. It can't be 5, dude. Your watch is busted. But I wasn't ready to give up just yet. It was denser than the area around it and seemed to have clean, man-made lines. It's a long way off, though. We would never find the tracks again. It's for the trees. It's a list of names. Or died, said Jamie as he folded the paper and put it into the backpack. It made me incredibly uncomfortable. Or break one of the windows. But that was nothing compared to what sat upon the altar. It wasn't a podium, as I had thought earlier. It was a statue of the crucifixion, but unlike any I had ever seen before. It's going to be dark in half an hour. It's already hard to see in here. It was just a solid piece of wood with strange markings on it. And it was indeed a trapdoor. And the thought of spending one more minute here had me on the precipice of a panic attack, something I hadn't experienced in over a year. But I felt myself slowly nodding as Jamie pulled me to my feet. But I suppose that it's better that that what happened down there didn't happen to Jamie alone. And he was right. There could be anything down there, and almost all old stuff was valuable. It towered over us, and as such I could only see the bottom of its jaw from where I was. It was looking directly ahead of it, at the staircase we had just descended. Its tail was long and swept around the entire room. It had claws, like any modern depiction of a demon, and as I moved around the chamber to view its profile, I noticed it had horns as well. It's not my fault you cracked me on the head. And it was staring at me. It shook me to my core in a literal sense. It wasn't until he started screaming that I was shaken from my paralysis. I dropped the flashlight, Jamie dropped everything else, and we ran. It was so large and heavy that the entire staircase shook with the impact. It was coming. It was more than halfway up the stairs. But I couldn't leave him. It was here. It was now dark outside and the temperature was dropping fast. It didn't take us this long to find that place. Or did it? But maybe it was some crazy, undiscovered giant reptile that was, like, hibernating, and we woke it up. So we were going to delude ourselves into thinking that there was a scientific explanation for this. It was on the trapdoor, too. Because, Jamie, all those doors are open now. But he hadn't seen its face, not like I had. It was no animal. It was made of stone. It was something sinister and anciently evil, and it had seen me, had seen right down into my soul. It was aware of me, and I was aware of it. And now it was free. And then nothing was left. And this is why I am writing the story down and uploading it to the internet. Or perhaps one day it will just disappear and you won't remember ever seeing it, and I won't remember ever
Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have The Lost Town of Deepwood, Pennsylvania. So, The Lost Town of Deepwood, Pennsylvania, is a Reddit NoSleep story, and it's by the Dalek Emperor, which you may remember from such Reddit NoSleep stories as Baraska, Part 1, Part 2, and all the parts after that.
Oh, hot damn.
So this is a Baraska. So this is the author of Baraska. which had me worried when I realized who that was.
Oh yeah, what kind of shit are we gonna see in here?
Right? And it was like there was some kids in the woods in Pennsylvania looking for something in the woods, and oh no, this is gonna go horrible. And then like there was also like some foreshadowing in the story where it's like, oh no, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's dive in with the our initial recommendations for this one. I'm gonna recommend this one.
I am also going to recommend this one.
Okay.
I am also going to recommend this one.
Thank you, guys. I was really worried that I was going to be the only one who liked this.
When has that ever happened?
See previous episode catalog of 500 plus episodes.
Yeah.
Because like
you like in post going like episode 3, episode 8, episode 12, like listing all of them.
Just
like
exactly.
you have them in your head.
Yeah. Like so, because like the reason why was because like when I started reading the story for the episode, like for this week, I was like I wasn't really feeling like reading anything, and I actually really had to push myself to get into reading this because for the show specifically, and as I started reading it, my momentum just kept going exponentially. Like it zipped through the 16 pages that this story is, in like no time flat. Now, do I have criticism of the story? Of course, but I feel like my notes are also going to be pretty positive. But before we get too far ahead of myself, I guess we should start with the rundown, featuring the Katie, as we eventually find out her name.
It didn't take too long.
It took 10 I have a whole thing in my notes about it. It took 10 paragraphs for us to get her name.
All right. Never mind. It took too long. It took way too long.
It took a page and a half for us to get her name.
Maybe just because the story reads nicely, as you said. It didn't feel like it took a long time, but when you look at it, it's like, oh, okay, never mind.
It's like, that's okay. Yeah. I mean, I'll give this. It was organic the way it came in. Like it wasn't just like dropped on us like a ton of bricks. But anyway, so the rundown for the lost town of Deepwood, Pennsylvania. Katie, our narrator, is telling the tale of her time in the rural town of Middleborough, Pennsylvania, and the horror she and her friend uncovered in the woods nearby. It was 2002, and her dad was there for a few months in the summer while he opened a new store. So Katie and her mom moved out there as well while he worked there. It was in this time that Katie became friends with a local boy, Jamie, and the two 12-year-olds spent a lot of time outdoors and such, forming a friendship and awkwardly flirting as well. It was also at this time that Katie learned of a local legend, a lost sister town to that of Middleborough, that was supposedly deep in the woods, and that locals either searched for or stayed clear of. And there had even been a death, like a disappearance and death found back in like the 70s or so. In the last few days before Katie and her parents were going to move away, Katie used the duo's mutual attraction for each other to convince Jamie to go out into the woods and follow the old train tracks that led out there to search for this town. They did indeed find structures, specifically a chapel, after losing time while following the tracks, and find their way inside, where things begin to get creepy, at least for Katie. The chapel had a very creeping atmosphere with strange ledgers showing the town's name, Deepwood, and also a list of names of like supposed townsfolk and such, as well as photos of people that seemingly like look down at you, judging you, and a darkly statue of Jesus crucified in the main hall of the church amidst rotting pews. As Katie is beginning to panic, especially after the back way they had just come through collapsed, and they couldn't seem to get through the front door as it just wouldn't budge. Jamie seemed to have much more excitement than previously. He finds a trap door to a basement level where hot air is wafting up, and as they descend down spiral stairs, much to Katie's hesitation, they find a dark, deeper chamber. In this chamber is another statue of a demonic form that is personally indescribable by Katie, but it is horrific to be sure, with a long tail wrapping around the extent of the chamber. And that's when shit hits the fan, as the statue animates and chases the duo back up the stairs, and it's only then that Katie realizes there are strange symbols on the trap door, just like there are on the front door. They manage in the nick of time to bust open the front door of the church and flee into the woods. They are found hours later after being gone about 10 hours, though they don't feel like it has been that long for them. Katie and her parents leave sooner than expected, and that's the last she hears from Jamie, or Middleborough for that matter. It seems that in the next few years, no trace of the town or its peoples can be found by Katie, and people like her parents don't even really remember that time or that place very well. All that she has left as evidence that Jamie was real and that place was real is a police report from that day, that when they went missing for 10 hours. And even that eventually just goes blank. Katie, as she writes this down and plans to post it online, fears that one day her memory and even this story will vanish. She also worries that they let something out in those woods that day, and that it was the cause of the town disappearing, much like the older town, Deepwood. And that's still out there, wiping towns off the map and no one remembering it. She ends this part, because yes, there are sequels to the story, wishing she had more answers than questions. Finn, for now. So, with that out of the way, let's dive into Everyone Tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions. At this point, I do have a few. So, I'm going to start with this one here. I guess this is technically dialogue, but fuck you.
Okay.
I knew you know more than you let on. I think you actually need to have a mostly come at night situation here, where it's I knew you knew more than you were letting on. So, well, I knew you knew I knew. Sorry, what was that, gamer?
Yeah, so it's like a tense situation.
Yeah, it sounds weird when it's like I knew you know more than you let on. Like that doesn't work for me. Like it actually does need to have I knew you knew.
Or I know you know.
No, because that one because she didn't know up until this point, or she had an idea, but she didn't just know. Like I don't know,
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have here. All right, I'll tell you. Geez, Katie. Jamie picked up his bike and started walking down the bike path. I grabbed mine and followed him. So this is what I said earlier. This is like 10 or so paragraphs in, and we are just now knowing Nair is in fact named Katie. Mm-hmm. Hey, at least it naturally appears in the story, and better late than ne'er. Better late than ne'er. I'll leave.
Crickets.
I was hoping it would just be cold silence.
Yes, I was expecting it, honestly.
Yeah.
I'll move on to the next thing I have here. Jamie and I stumbled around the small nave, breaking windows on either side with pieces of wood we had found. The hell is a nave? So, noun. A nave is the central part of a church building intended to accommodate most of the congregation. In traditional Western churches, it is a rectangular separated, or it is rectangular, separated from the chancel by a step or rail, and from adjacent aisles by pillars. Also, I want to say, what the fuck is a chancel? But I'm not going to do that one because it's not in the story. So I learned a word
of learning all these new words.
of learning church words.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I learned a new word today. Nave is apparently the space where the pews are and such.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I feel like there should probably be a comma between nave and breaking, because when I was first read it, it was like Jamie and I stumbled around the small nave, breaking windows on either side. Blah, blah, blah. I feel like it should be Jamie and I stumbled around the small nave, comma, breaking windows on either side with pieces of wood we found.
Yeah, because otherwise they're stumbling around the nave breaking.
Yeah, exactly. Small nave breaking.
What the hell's a nave breaking?
Yeah. You had something to say, Mikey?
Oh, I was just gonna say breaking wind. O's.
Yeah. Nave breaking wind. Those. Why the hell are there deer in here?
Why are they made of wind?
Well, and why are they farting all the time?
Actually, they'd be windows, so they'd be winning all the time.
Oh God. Winning. Tiger blood. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. I didn't know you were claustrophobic. At least that's what I think, Jamie said. I better remember the horror I felt as I stared at the hole in the floor. Jamie had opened the trap door. Okay, so as you can probably guess from how I read that, I do understand what the sentence is trying to do, but personally, I would have moved better at the end of the sentence of the sentence it's in for clarity. So it's like, I didn't know you were claustrophobic. At least that's what I think Jamie said. I remember the horror I felt as I stared at the hole in the floor better. Because when I better remember, like, oh, I better remember this.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's supposed to be like why it's in that place is like there's like, I better remember the horror I felt in that place. Blah blah. But I feel like to fix that, it should be like better should be at the end of that sentence, just so it's like that's what I thought Jamie said. I remember the horror better. Maybe put it on before. Maybe put it after horror. It's like I remember the horror better, or the horror I felt better as I stared at the hole in the floor. Just because like where better is placed, it is kind of confusing. Like what the intent is in this sentence. So then the next one here. Neither Jamie nor I spoke as we shuffled around room, our backs to the wall as far away from the demon as physically possible. Ah, the return of the Baraskaism of caveman speech.
Oh yeah, this is where it came from.
Yeah, as we shuffled around the room, not as we shuffled around room. And then this one. Then we have this last one I have here. All I could feel was my own intern descent into madness. God, I hate it when your interns are trapped in an eternal hell at the offices of madness.
Right? It seems like it happens every single time. And you fire one and you get another one and they just do the same thing.
I mean, well, you can't really fire an intern because like they're living for exposure, not pay.
You can tell them to get the fuck out.
That's true. Yeah.
It's the same damn thing.
You can just remove them from the premises. Yeah. You're fired. Kabam. But yeah, so all seriousness though, I think it should probably be internal. So it's like all I could feel was my own internal descent into madness.
Yes.
Also, is it descent? Shouldn't descent have an S before the C, so it's not decent? I just realized. I'm just looking at that the descent, how it's spelled.
Yeah, it's DESCENT.
So really, it should have been. So as it is, it reads, "All I could feel was my own intern decent into madness." My own intern decent. Decent. That poor lad working for exposure by walking into madness. But that is all I have for my grammar acquisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil. What do you got?
I have a conjunction junction.
Woo!
And next stop, Conjunction Junction. Doot, doot.
It was 2 stories tall and at the end of a very lonely cul-de-sac. It was pretty boring, as expected, until we heard some kid ask an employee about the lost town. It was a full 5 weeks into the summer before I finally got my questions answered. It's like a rite of passage or something for kids to go looking for it. It's easy to do, everything looks the same. And where do people look? It's pretty deep back there, but they figure that if there was another town, they would have lived by the lake. So that's where they go. And I don't know why they would lay them going back into those woods unless there was something back there, so that's where I'd go. It was the weekend before we were moving home, and my parents had a barbecue for the employees of Dad's new store and some of our neighbors. But legends don't just come from nowhere. So, do you want to go out to the woods one last time? It was the awkward first kiss of 2 12-year-olds, but it made me feel warm and sent a flight of butterflies swirling into my stomach. So, I actually really did like Jamie. It took him stumbling over the tracks to break off his monologue and finally notice the backpack. But we follow the tracks the entire time and we turn around after an hour. It would be the first and last time I ever did. It felt like we had only been walking for 45 minutes, but when Jamie checked his watch, it had been 3 hours. It says it's 5 o'clock. It can't be 5, dude. Your watch is busted. But I wasn't ready to give up just yet. It was denser than the area around it and seemed to have clean, man-made lines. It's a long way off, though. We would never find the tracks again. It's for the trees. It's a list of names. Or died, said Jamie as he folded the paper and put it into the backpack. It made me incredibly uncomfortable. Or break one of the windows. But that was nothing compared to what sat upon the altar. It wasn't a podium, as I had thought earlier. It was a statue of the crucifixion, but unlike any I had ever seen before. It's going to be dark in half an hour. It's already hard to see in here. It was just a solid piece of wood with strange markings on it. And it was indeed a trapdoor. And the thought of spending one more minute here had me on the precipice of a panic attack, something I hadn't experienced in over a year. But I felt myself slowly nodding as Jamie pulled me to my feet. But I suppose that it's better that that what happened down there didn't happen to Jamie alone. And he was right. There could be anything down there, and almost all old stuff was valuable. It towered over us, and as such I could only see the bottom of its jaw from where I was. It was looking directly ahead of it, at the staircase we had just descended. Its tail was long and swept around the entire room. It had claws, like any modern depiction of a demon, and as I moved around the chamber to view its profile, I noticed it had horns as well. It's not my fault you cracked me on the head. And it was staring at me. It shook me to my core in a literal sense. It wasn't until he started screaming that I was shaken from my paralysis. I dropped the flashlight, Jamie dropped everything else, and we ran. It was so large and heavy that the entire staircase shook with the impact. It was coming. It was more than halfway up the stairs. But I couldn't leave him. It was here. It was now dark outside and the temperature was dropping fast. It didn't take us this long to find that place. Or did it? But maybe it was some crazy, undiscovered giant reptile that was, like, hibernating, and we woke it up. So we were going to delude ourselves into thinking that there was a scientific explanation for this. It was on the trapdoor, too. Because, Jamie, all those doors are open now. But he hadn't seen its face, not like I had. It was no animal. It was made of stone. It was something sinister and anciently evil, and it had seen me, had seen right down into my soul. It was aware of me, and I was aware of it. And now it was free. And then nothing was left. And this is why I am writing the story down and uploading it to the internet. Or perhaps one day it will just disappear and you won't remember ever seeing it, and I won't remember ever writing it. And I can only hope that this ended with Middlesbrough. But all I have are questions. Finn.
Wow. So I got some notes here that I've been jotting down. First off, the very beginning, it very much felt like there's no real mention of the woods. So like, but there's a lot of mention of like the suburb that they were, or like the cul-de-sac and like the neighborhood they were in. So it's like, so this whole thing takes place in like a very long, expansive suburb, then, right? But then this story zooms by all the way, like very little conjunctions and a conjunction junction until they're on the tracks, like walking into the woods for the last time and finding the church and stuff like that, where the conjunctions just build up. Like, so like it skimmed past like most of the story leading up to the church discovery, and then you just went to like listening to it. There's so many plot details inside the church because of the conjunctions. So it's like oh, we're just gonna skip this. So it was like for a moment it was a very succinct version of the rundown, and then you just kind of started just reading the story. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Gamer, you there?
I was muted today.
I was like, why is he not talking?
And for those unaware, Mikey grabs sentences throughout the story that start with words that they probably shouldn't. Like its, ends, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
Indeed.
And when he puts them together in a string of a story, sometimes comes with hilarious results.
Mm-hmm. So, Gamer, do we have a grammar in yellow?
A little bit.
Okay.
My dad was assigned to a store in Pennsylvania, and because it was a longer assignment, and because it was summertime as well, he decided to take my mom and I with him. So for me, I feel like it's a bad placement of the comma, the first one, because it's my dad was assigned to a store in Pennsylvania, and because it was longer, like it's Pennsylvania and comma.
Yeah.
But also because later on, rather, because it goes and because again in one long ass sentence, I feel like you should just remove the first and because and just cut that first sentence short. So it would go, my dad was assigned to a store in Pennsylvania, period. It was a longer assignment, comma, but because it was summertime as well, comma, he decided to take my mom and I with him.
I actually alter yours a little bit further and have that it was summertime 2022. It was summertime 2002. Like, or in summertime of 2002. Like have the summertime part be at the beginning so that you cut that, get an even extra out, like, and because blah, blah, blah.
I guess.
I was just like thinking of like how to streamline that sentence a little bit further. And I think, like, honestly, the summertime part should probably be at the beginning as well with the year.
This is in the first paragraph.
I know. I'm just saying, like, no, but I mean, like, in the sentence itself, like, it was kind of, like, you're right, it is kind of clunky, but I feel like you're streamlined it, but I think to streamline that sentence even further to make it more efficient, like, the summertime part should also just be at the beginning of the sentence, so it's like in summertime 2002, like, that way you don't have that extra and because of this and because of that and because of that kind of stuff. I'm trying to help you, damn it.
Sentence would just say he had a particularly busy year, period.
Go on.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Then we jump ahead to the church. The windows were, surprisingly, all intact. Intact is meant to be one word, not two. It's not intact, it's intact.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next one is basically in regards to the demon statue. I feel like it could use some more description because it's such an important part of the story. And, like, the only part of this creature that we get a good visual for is the tail, in my opinion. Because, like, the mentions of the claw and the horns is just kind of, like, it's just sort of mentioned, like, on the side. It's not really elaborated on. Because, like, for the claws, it says it has claws, like any modern depiction of a demon. It's like, okay, so it has claws. But how big are they? Are they, like, small, like, coming out like fingernails, but they're pointy? Are they, like, big, like, monstrous ones? Does he have an inhuman amount of digits on his hands? There's, like, a lot of extra things you can describe here.
But that's the other thing, and I actually point this out in my actual thoughts. This is very much a Lovecraftian, like, trope of, like, oh, this thing was indescribable. Now let me describe its indescribability.
But
like,
she did also say, like, it's, like, burned into my vision.
But she can't bring herself to describe what she saw. Like, that's like she still sees it, but she can't put it down to words. Like, and I'm not really defending that as, like, a thing, because I find that, like, as a cheapskate when it comes to, like, Lovecraftian horror and, like, demons and stuff and, like, horror and stuff. But it is a trope that people fall into for, like, horrific monsters. Like, oh, it was so horrifying, I can't describe it, even though it's burned into my brain. So,
I suppose.
Yeah, because, like, watch, like, when you, like, yeah, you're right. This thing, it describes the tail, describes the horns, describes the claws like a modern day demon. Honestly, at this point, this creature looks like Diablo, like demon form Diablo from Diablo 1.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, it's mainly the horns that got me thinking about this, because when it mentioned the horns, it says that the horns are over a foot tall, which I felt was a weird description for the horns, because, like that specifically said.
Does it actually say, like, specifically?
Yes, it says tall, at least a foot tall. So it made me think that they're vertical, like, very vertical, which I guess might be intentional to make you feel that they're vertical, like they come out the forehead and go straight up, basically.
Yeah,
instead of out the side of the head and curl around like minotaur horns or whatever. But
yeah, because if they were, like, a foot tall or a foot, like, if they were curling, would you not describe that as like a foot long? So like because they curl. But then like again, we don't even get the curled or anything like that. We don't get any other descriptions because again, it's burned into her mind, but they can't personally bring it down to words
for reasons.
Yeah, I got a bit in my actual thoughts on that, but
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much the end of my grammar.
Okay. Then I suppose we move on to actual thoughts. Jamie and I were building a bike ramp over a narrow stream late one afternoon when we saw a group of 5 teenagers boisterously heading out into the woods. They were carrying flashlights and beer, several of them trying to scare the girls of the group into turning back. So they saw the characters from the other creepypasta happening in this area.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And then the next thing I have here, the Lost Town is just a dumb legend. The stories say that Middlesbrough had a sister city nearby, somewhere out in these woods. Then one day, like a century and a half ago, the whole town just disappeared. The people left or died. Nobody knows. Nobody even remembers the name of the town. It's like a rite of passage or something for kids to go looking for it. I'm just going to look at my long list of old game ideas that I've either run or want to run in the past, specifically from the Grumblehammer 1920s campaigns of One Less Die, our sister podcast. Seriously though, I really like the idea of a forgotten or spooky sister city to the one that still exists or that the characters are in, and like having to like find out why it went missing or why people no longer remember it. Like, it's just a really cool idea to me.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I did. This is something I also that I was going to bring up, but then as I finished the story, I was like, "Oh, this isn't really necessary." I did end up trying to look for Middlesbrough to see if it was an actual place in Pennsylvania.
Of course.
And I mean, it's not.
Of course, it's been deleted by the creature.
Exactly. It's been removed from reality. It's just been like all information about it has been plucked from existence. So. The next thing I have here, he's really just a gaslighter, isn't he?
Yeah.
The team. But I digress. I'll move on to the next thing I have. Jamie and I hung out inside the house and played my N64 while we flirted pretty outrageously. There had been an unspoken sort of mutual attraction throughout the summer that no one had the guts to act on. Since I was moving home in 5 days, there really was nothing left to lose. Although his intentions were probably pure and genuine, I am embarrassed to say that mine were not. I thought that if I could make him want to impress me, he would agree to go looking for the lost town. To this, I'm just like, "Aw, this is so cute. Too bad this is going to end in tears and probably blood." I mean, this is a Baraska. This is by the person who wrote Baraska.
Yeah.
But then,
but she's literally bringing this guy to his death.
Well, yes, but at that time, like it's
the most adorable way possible, though.
Yes, and also like the character doesn't know at that time that like things are going to end badly.
Mm-hmm.
And then like even later, like when they have their first like awkward kiss, like she realized, oh, I am actually like attracted to this kid.
Whoops.
Yeah. Also, a quick update to this: it didn't end in blood, which surprised me based on like a bunch of foreshadowing throughout the story where like they're mentioning like this was going to be the last time I'd hug Jamie, or like I'm glad Jamie wasn't down in that pit below. Like I was expecting Jamie to be killed, and then like Katie being the only one that makes it out of the forest.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the end of the story, I'm glad that they actually like subverted that kind of like thing that they were like kind of building in the story. And because what happens is also just as tragic as if Jamie had died, because we're left not knowing the fate really of Jamie or anybody in the town of Middlesbrough. Like, were they eaten? Did something? Were they not? Did they just like? Did the demon like just cease to exist? Them kind of thing. Like, yeah, and maybe that'll be explained later in the other parts of the story, like in the other sequels. But I do hope that this story actually does have, like, they actually dig in, like she has some like digging into the mystery about what's going on with these towns. But the next thing I have here As we walked, we talked about all sorts of mundane things, stopping only to make sure we were still on the tracks. It felt like we had only been walking about 45 minutes, but when Jamie checked his watch, it had been 3 hours. All right, I'm just gonna check a map here. Yep, this could technically be on the Appalachian Trail going through Pennsylvania. Yeah, they are so fucking screwed. Just like going out into the woods, losing time. This is some Blair Witch Project bullshit.
Yeah.
They are so screwed. Also, fun fact, the Blair Witch Project, like the location, like the Black Hills Forest in Maryland, is also on the Appalachian Trail. So yeah.
Nothing nice out there then. It's always horrible things.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I do want to walk at least a section of the Appalachian Trail one day.
So you want to die is what you're saying.
No, but like, I mean, again, I've said it on the show before, if I have to die, I want to be immersed in creepypasta.
Yes.
But I will move on to the next thing I have. When I broke the last window on my side, that sounded really weird. When I broke like they did like a weird like a side slam. But no,
like she's made it. She has windows on her side, like she's a transformer all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think it's when I broke the last window on my side, I turned back around to survey the chapel, disappointed that the lighting wasn't much better. The room itself seemed to repel light. Okay, getting some Alan Wake vibes here with the darkness in the chapel, but that really doesn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing is the wooden pews were completely rotted. In fact, the wood we had been using to break the windows of the church were leg stands from the front row. The narrow aisle in between the rows of pews was littered with leaves and rotting wood. But that was nothing compared to what sat upon the altar. So I think something that this is just like a suggestion for like the story itself, and like it probably would it would probably start like shit hitting the fan a lot sooner. But how creepy would it be if they like turned around, because they couldn't really see the whole room because of all the gloom? But how creepy would it be if they smashed the windows and looked back into the room and it was like slightly more lit than before, and they find the bodies of the teens from a few weeks ago that were going into the woods to look for things, like just sitting in the pews. Like
that was brought up.
It's brought up and then like never mentioned again. So I guess those kids like are fine, or they got, because I don't think the creature could affect the outside of the church until these kids accidentally.
If the creature did anything with those kids, it would have deleted them from existence. No one would know that they're there.
Well,
exactly. Yeah.
The other kids went to the lake, not to the railroad track. So
that's true. Yeah. Well, and that is also what like Jamie was speculating. Oh, those kids are probably going to the lake. Maybe they did like veer off and find the tracks and go that way. But again, it was just like something that I think might have been interesting, like to like throw in as an even more creepy thing. But it would also probably stop Katie and Jamie from finding the trap door and then unleashing the demon. But it's just a speculative suggestion, I guess, on my part.
I mean, the way that that Jamie was like wanting to check everything out, regardless of how fucked up everything is. If you found bodies, you'd probably be like, okay, we're still gonna check out everything here.
Yeah, I have actually a thing. I'll bring it up now because you brought it up here. Where Jamie is, like you said, Jamie's suddenly getting like really excited for this stuff. Is like, so the quote is, "Jamie, I think we need to leave," I said in a low voice. Jamie stopped and looked up, seeming to remember I was there. Are you kidding? This is what you came for. We have to bring home evidence, all of it. It's going to be dark in a half hour. It's already hard to see in here. Duh, that's why I'm using a flash. Light? Sorry, grammar inquisition. Shouldn't there, like, that's why I'm using a flash. That's all it says. And that's period.
He's taking pictures.
Oh, fuck. Okay, yeah, you're right. I need to read faster.
All good.
Yeah. Duh, that's why I'm using a flash. Hey, can you get a picture of me next to the creepy Jesus thing? I guess, I mumbled as I took the camera from him. I didn't even want to look at it, much less photograph it. But if it would help me get him out of here, I was going to stomach it. Jamie wrapped his arm around it just as I snapped the picture. Don't touch it! Oh crap. Why did you touch it? There's something off about this thing. Jamie, can we freaking get out of here? So it keeps going on like that. Oh no, Jamie, this 12-year-old has been possessed by dumb jock energy from a slasher film.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, like it is interesting because like and this is something that happens a lot in stories, like where like the dynamic shifts. Like the main character Katie like is the one that wants to go out into the woods, and their friend is hesitant, but the character tricks their friend and or persuades or like strong arms their friend to come with them into the woods. And then at some point in the story there's a shift where suddenly the protagonist or the narrator wants to get out of there, and the friend who was reticent about going into the woods or going into that creepy place, they suddenly become a dumb jock and just like, no, there's nothing's wrong here. This is just super exciting. Let's check this out. Let's split up, gang. Yeah. I'm gonna go have a shower in the back room. My name's Billy now.
Billy?
Yeah, well, it's that like that slasher movie like skit / joke. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go in the back and take a shower.
Yeah,
Billy. But yeah, definitely got like some slasher movie vibes coming off of Jamie, like halfway through the story, which is how much of a
kind of had review cultist vibe as well. Honestly,
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like I would be of two minds. I feel like I would probably also have similar like Nope vibes that Katie has.
But you would also want to have pictures taken with the creature.
Yeah, but I probably wouldn't touch it. Yeah. That's the thing. I think I'd be the middle ground. Like, I'd take the picture of the statue, but I wouldn't be touching it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll move on to the next thing I have here, which is technically going back up a bit, but that's fine. Actually, it's about the statue. So
perfect.
It wasn't a podium, as I had thought earlier. It was a statue of the crucifixion, but unlike any I had ever seen before. The paint had been worn away on every part of the statue, except the blood on the crucifixion wounds, which stood bright and realistic, and seemed to be oozing before our very eyes. The only other surface left untouched by decay of time was the face of Jesus. The details of this face were still so incredibly minute and perfect, and he had the same accusing eyes as the portraits in the pastor's office. Sweet evil Jesus. Literally.
Yeah.
I also so something that is brought up in the story, like while I was reading it, and like we're getting like these like accusatory eyes from the photos in the back office, and then from the Jesus statue here. Have you guys, both of you guys, have you seen the Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Yes.
A long time ago.
Yeah, fair. So for me, I was visualizing how the church statues on Notre Dame were like accusatorily glaring down at Frollo in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Just these like really really dramatic and dynamic like stare downs at the guilty party. Like when Frollo like accidentally kills Quasimodo's mother at the beginning of the movie, and like he looks and the priest comes up and says like it's like the you will be accused, and Frollo starts looking up and seeing these like looking at these statues, and they're all just like glaring down at him. Like if you look online, like the judging statues of Notre Dame or of Disney, you'll see yeah. You'll see like kind of like screen caps of what I mean, of just these like how they really pronounce the eyes on the statues, and even have them like kind of, they don't like move, but they definitely look like they're now just all of them are just like now looking down at this one character in the scene. And that's kind of what the sort of the creepy judging eye intent I think I got from like when I was reading this story. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. What I saw there I can never describe, though I have tried many times. The room was entirely empty, save two things. One was a desk in the corner, much like the one in the pastor's office, and the second was another statue. So this is the what part is like, good old Lovecraftian storytelling. It was indescribable. Now let me describe what's in this room. Or let me describe.
The room is undescribable.
I mean, it kind of sounded like she was. It's like, what I saw there, I can never describe, though I've tried many times. And then proceeds to describe the room, like the room.
In hindsight, I think it's meant to be the creature in the basement.
You're probably right, honestly, yeah.
But in the moment, yes, very strange.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of Lovecraft stuff, I'm going to read this quote and comment on it. This one was roughly 12 feet tall and remained to this day the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. To put it mildly, it was some sort of demon. It towered over us, and as such, I could only see the bottom of its jaw from where I was. It was looking directly ahead of it. I really hate how that's phrased, because I tripped over that the last time I read this story.
You thought it was saying I was looking ahead of it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was.
I kind of half read that too.
Like, I feel like it should be. It was looking. The statue was looking directly ahead of itself.
Yes.
At the staircase we had just ascended. Its tail was long and swept around the entire room. There wasn't a lot of room to move. It had claws, like a modern depiction of a demon. And as I moved around the chamber to view its profile, I noticed it had horns as well. So, like I said, speaking of Lovecraft, I also can't help but picture this as like in a similar vein as the Church of Redemption from the Sinking City video game, which is this chapel like location that you go into, and it has like statues of like in a Christian style church sort of setting. But when you use like your special ability in the game to like see like beyond, like see what's underneath the surface of things, you find like these sanity blasting eldritch statues where the angel statues are. And it's, I mean, spoilers for the game. It is revealed that the Church of Redemption are not worshiping God or the god. They're worshiping Cthulhu, a fire vampire god from the Cthulhu mythos. And fire those statues, vampire. Yeah, they're like basically, or actually, I think it might be star vampires, which are basically, because believe it or not, fire vampires and star vampires are different in the mythos.
Okay.
Fire vampires are basically just like elemental motes of fire that like siphon blood from you. And star vampires are an actual like kind of like plasmoid organic like massive tentacles with like lamprey like suction cups at the end of some of the tentacles. It's like a horrific floating eldritch version of a Tengela.
Nice.
And they come from stars, specifically actually a specific star in our star cluster, I think Firmalhalt or something like that.
Formaldehyde for a second.
What?
I thought you were going to say formaldehyde for a second there.
That's kind of what it sounds like. It's because it's basically like it's I think it's where we get the word Fahrenheit from, or like something similar. It's a very similar sounding word. Anyway, yeah. So I was kind of getting vibes of like the Church of Redemption when they came in down here, and like she was like freaking out over the statue because like it kind of reminded me of like, oh, this is like nice kind of like, or this like strange, creepy, dilapidated Christian church, and then you get down to the basement, and they're actually worshiping a Lovecraftian horror or some kind of like demonic form, rather than Jesus, the other cosmic horror. But I'll move on to the next thing here. As I had moved the beam of light up to Jamie's face, I had seen another face right next to his. A twisted, angry, soulless face. The demon's. The statue had bent down and turned to the side, its head mere inches from Jamie's. Gamer, I'm sorry. I apparently have been stealing your video game references this episode.
I mean, it happens.
Like, because honestly, as soon as I read this, all I could think of is the scene in Doom 3 where the Hell Knight sneaks up behind a Marine and is about to like bite his head off, and then it notices you like looking at it, and it's I think it's like if you look back and you see him, you'll see like this Hell Knight or this knight about to like just open its giant maw to bite this Marine's head off, and then it looks and sees that you've spotted it, and it just pushes the guy away and goes after you. I remember that being like a scene in Doom 3, and that's all I could think of with this part is like the demon was about to eat Jamie's head, and then it saw that it was being spotted like a boo.
Mm-hmm. I immediately went with SCP, the one that's the concrete one that if you don't look at it,
oh yeah,
it kills you. Because as soon as they stopped looking at it, it moved.
Yeah, the blinking statue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see.
I didn't know.
Well, it has a name. I can't remember what it is at this point. If only we had something like the internet. I can't remember which one it is. It's like SCP-173, maybe. Yes, I nailed it. First try, SCP-173.
Nice.
What is it called though? In the notes,
the sculpture.
Apparently. Is it just called the sculpture? Yeah. That honestly sounds about right.
It's called that in Containment Breach.
And that's actually what it's called, like in the list of SCPs. It's dubbed the sculpture. So yeah. But yeah, no, I could buy it. Like it's a little bit. It doesn't immediately kill you when you look away from it, but
no. I do wonder what triggered it though. Like they were like intently staring at it the whole time and it wasn't moving, and then as soon as they both dropped their lights, they had to break eye contact with it, and then it moved.
Didn't Katie hit it, and that's why? No, she hit. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that she hit.
The lights, so they both broke line of sight.
Maybe it was always aware of them the whole time, and just been like basically biding its time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we get this part here, which actually I heard when Mikey was doing his conjunction junction, I actually I jotted this note down, because I just like thought of it like in the moment. That thing Jamie started, I thought it was a statue, but maybe it was some crazy undiscovered reptile that was like hibernating, and we woke it up. It was a time of darkness. It was a world of fear. It was the age of Deepwood. Insert Gargoyles theme song here.
Yeah,
because it's like a demonic form is like, so it's a gargoyle. Like maybe it's just like it's some kind of like evil gargoyle that's been slumbering underneath the church. They actually discovered the rookery of like an old gargoyle clan that like there's just like one left.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the reason it woke up was because they don't realize it, but they actually were stepping on like the broken shells of like the eggs of the in the rookery.
Oh yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have. This one's kind of like it makes sense in the context of the story, but I still thought it was very odd. It was just odd behavior from Katie. Over the following year, Middlesbrough slowly disappeared. At first, I could just feel the memory fading unnaturally in my mind. My parents couldn't remember that we had ever been there, which scared me more than anything else. I taped the police report to the ceiling over my bed so that Jamie would be the first and last thing I thought about every day. So again, it makes sense in the context of the story, like that, like she's trying to remember Jamie and stuff. But that's still like, I can only imagine like what her parents think of, like, why do you have that police report right over your bed? Like when when her mom comes in to like drop off some like laundry or something like that, or some other excuse for a parent to go into into the kid's room.
Mm-hmm.
It would seem like really weird, obsessive behavior, but
I mean, you're not wrong.
No,
but also she's a kid.
Yeah, I'm not wrong, but I'm not right, because
actually at that point she's a teenager. So
yeah, and again, like it makes sense in the context of the story. Like she's doing it so that like she doesn't forget, because she realizes she's forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
The story actually goes like super mundane. She's really just suffering from early onset Alzheimer's.
Yep.
But it's contagious, so her parents are also. Oh, this just gets really sad. I'll move away from the sadness to the next thing I have here. Actually, this
the
will be
paper is the least crazy thing she could have done, because the other alternative is just writing his name everywhere.
everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That would be like the next step of like crazy.
Yep.
But hey, when you know something is true and the rest of the world doesn't know it, doesn't think it's true, are you the crazy one, or do you just live in a crazy world?
What I don't get is how come everyone forgets about the town and everything, but she doesn't? She was at ground zero with this creature.
I think that might be why she doesn't forget. Why she doesn't doesn't entirely forget like right off the right off the hop like everybody else. I think because she was in proximity to this creature, like either it rubbed off, like she's been marked maybe. Like maybe it's slowly like disappearing towns on its way to find her.
Wow.
That would be fucking creepy, actually, if that was how
she
things
moves around all the fucking time too.
Oh god. She's
Wipe out the entirety of the United States.
Oh no, it's like the plot of It Follows, where like you get the sexually transmitted demon disease, or like you get the sexually transmitted slasher that no one can see but you, and the only way to avoid getting killed by it is to just pass on the STS to another person, and then once that person gets killed, then it starts going after you eventually. Like you basically, it's like
you can only delay the inevitable.
Yeah, it's like the worst game of hot potato.
Yes.
Because like because I remember like she in that movie she avoided it for a little while by like just having sex with a couple of people, and then like having just random randos that she hooked up with to get it taken away from her, and then like eventually though it came back after her. So, yeah,
I don't remember the plot of that story at all. I just remember of that movie, but I remember liking it.
It was good. Like it was very cool, like kind of dreamlike, anachronistically like interesting. It was like it's supposed to have like sort of a dream quality to it, based off of what the director has said, because most of it seems very like set in the 80s and is very analog, but there are little things in the movie that don't make sense. Like the one character has like an e-reader / Palm Pilot that's just a fold out clam shell. But like everything else in the movie is really like 80s or like analog style. Like all the cars are pretty old. They go to a very analog style theater. Like the movie theater they go to is a very like pay cash and buy tickets to go to like this, and it's like an old school like matinee kind of theater, and with a physical projection and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Per projector and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, it was very like, and I remember like watching it, it's like, is this supposed to be in the 80s or supposed to be now? Oh, it's just set in Detroit.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's probably how they got a lot of the anachronism, like sort of the 80s vibes, because they just set it like parts of it in like near the 8 Mile.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, back to this movie, or back to this story.
Before we go back to that, did it also have a really cool music stinger?
It had such a cool music stinger that I actually went on iTunes and bought just that theme. So I have it on my phone, like this cool cool 80s synth. I was like, bow, no, 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 bow. It's
right, yeah, that is it. Yeah.
And but like that's just the stinger. Like the whole rest of the song is just also just really creepy, especially if you're just like walking around, if you're walking your dog at night in like out into like the park where like there's just like the lamp lights, and you just have that song starts playing, you're in for a bad time.
Yeah.
Because you're like looking back over your shoulder. I totally haven't done this before, guys.
No, never.
I'm not
this
talking.
Does not sound like the voice of experience at all. It's just
yeah, exactly. Yeah. God, that was such a good movie, though. Yeah, I will defend that movie to my last breath, honestly.
Good. But yes, we can move on now.
Okay. So the next thing I have here is my last thoughts, but it's also the last, like I think the last paragraph from the story. All that remains of Middlesbrough, and the people who live there are my memories. And this is why I am writing this story down and uploading it to the internet. Once it's on the internet, it can never die, right? Or perhaps one day it will just disappear and you won't remember ever seeing it, and I won't remember ever writing it. And I can only hope that this ended with Middlesbrough. If it has moved on to other towns, who would know? Who would even remember? Oh my God. So this demon creature, we kind of like talked a little bit about this, but this demon creature is like the Hell Knight from Doom mixed with the Weeping Angels and the Silence from Doctor Who.
Pretty much.
And actually, thinking on it a little bit harder, Gamer in Yellow, doesn't this kind of sound like a false Hydra situation?
I know what you're talking about. What's a false Hydra?
I don't know.
Those unaware have ran into a false Hydra multiple times in D&D sessions and forgot what it was every single time.
Yeah, that's true. You yeah, on our sister podcast, One Less Die, I used a false Hydra, which is heavily inspired by the Silence from Doctor Who and the Dead Hands monster from Ocarina of Time. And I used it in a D&D game that the gamer was in. And then like a few weeks later, like a month or two later, I used it in a Vossen game. And I think the Vossen game will be coming out before the D&D game comes out. But it was funny because like when it was finally revealed that it was a false Hydra, you're like, oh, what? How did I not realize this?
It's almost like I forget.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your hard drive is like always getting like cleared and filled. So yeah,
Pretty much, yeah.
it's understandable.
Only have so much storage space in there.
Yeah. Also, if the Dalek Emperor, wait a minute, the Dalek Emperor, this creature having very similar themes to like the Weeping Angel and the Silence from Doctor Who. I wonder what the inspiration for this monster was.
Were you about to ask what the inspiration was?
No,
it sounds like you were about to ask the Dalek Emperor, like, if they were inspired by these sorts of things, and then you're like, hey, wait a minute.
Well, no, I was actually going to
question.
Behind the scenes, it was part of like my gimmick here for this for my last comment.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so if the Dalek Emperor ever decides to do like an ARG long con sort of thing and actually remove this story from various internet websites it's on, I guess we're going to have to follow suit and remove this episode and just deny its existence.
Yep.
And personally, I hope that never happens.
But I also kind of hope it does happen because that's cool.
Yeah, that would be really like meta and cool. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to forget this story because it's so good.
Yeah,
like,
we still want others to experience the story because it is good.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the end of my actual thoughts. So
I do have a point to continue here, though.
Sure.
It said at the end that she's uploading this to the internet because she doesn't want it to be like, she wants it to be there forever because nothing gets deleted off the internet, right?
Yeah.
Can't she just Google the frickin' town she was just in?
I think she tried, and it's
that
gone.
means her putting it on the internet doesn't mean anything because the internet's already been wiped of that town.
That's true.
Yep.
So it's a fool's errand.
Yeah,
is what's happening. Or she's just trying to like populate, like she's trying to like repopulate the internet with any kind of information about Middlesbrough and Deepwood.
Yeah, because she tried to look up the store that her dad helped make.
That's what's even more fucked up. Like the chain store, like the
company.
No, not the company still exists.
No, I mean the company disavows any knowledge of that store.
Yeah, the company doesn't have any records of this store that was in this town. Like that's also kind of fun. That's like if a Walmart just vanished.
Yep.
Which I think that's actually even just as fucked up as anything else. Like, can you imagine just being a Walmart employee, like maybe like as like a manager or like a supervisor, and having to do some training in a store like a couple of like towns over, and then coming back, and then it's like, yeah, so it's like, where have you been for the last like few weeks? Like, I was in this town. at a store, and like they name off they know the number enough in their memory, and they's like, there's no store with that number to it. You're fired. Like it's just like that kind of thing. Where it's just like, what did you do for those last few weeks? Like, I was doing training over at another store. What store? This store in, I can't remember the place. It's like, yeah, we're gonna have to let you go. Like that would be so fucked up. But yeah, yeah. So really, kind of like she's trying fruitlessly, perhaps, to try and get awareness out, even though this thing seems to have the ability to wipe this thing from even the memory of the internet.
This might also be why there's 3 parts, because she's constantly putting up information.
Oh god, all 3 parts are just the same story, just like told slightly different.
Because she forgot a little bit in the meantime.
Yeah,
that actually could be kind of cool.
That it would be, I think it would be cooler if that was to be done. It would have to be sort of like a live event sort of thing, where like she posts the first story, and then and then like a few weeks later she deletes it, and then posts it again, and then deletes it, and then posts another one. But all 3 parts are a different retelling of the same story,
and they have like a little bit less and less information every time.
Yeah, exactly. And then by the end it's just like, somebody please help. I'm trying to remember this place I went to, and I know I have like very scant details, because like, like she like you leave it long enough online, like on Reddit, NoSleep or something like that, to get some like attention from the commenters and readers and stuff like that. Yes. And then you remove it, and then like a week later you post a new one that has the same title or like very similar title, and then just like you said, like just have all the have like some details removed or missing from the story, just to like have that kind of cool ARG like situation going.
Yeah, that's the high levels of immersion right there.
Yeah, that's just straight up an ARG, like an augmented reality game. But yeah, that would be really cool. But yeah, I think I've said my piece about Deepwood. So Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right, let's see. What do I got left here? He was a total idiot, probably on drugs. It was the 70s. We're a totally different generation. We have sat-nav. Sat-nav? This is brought up
and never used.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. It's she mentions it and then doesn't bring it with her when she packs up the has her like contingency backpack.
Was it not listed in the list of inventory?
No, it wasn't. Like maybe at the time she was just using it to try and like convince like Jamie to come with her out into the woods, like as a way of ensuring it, and then she used this other option, i.e., using his attraction to her to her advantage. So she pulled a fucking Bella from Twilight to get what she wants.
That her dad has sat nav, or that his dad has sat nav?
Her dad had sat nav.
Okay, then yeah, just kind of dropped the ball there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it's not necessarily a plot hole, but it does it's inching closer to the end, or it's inching very close to the edge of being a plot hole.
Yeah, because like, why bring it up like that? That's such an important thing, and then don't do it. Like, I'm okay with them not having it, but say why.
Yeah, the plot ice is melting.
In the inventory section where it's listing the stuff in the backpack, just say like, I wanted to get the sat nav, but like it's out of power, or my dad had it, or
they're moving in a couple of days, so it's already packed,
and I have no idea where it is.
Yeah, exactly, like that kind of thing. Yeah,
just something.
Yeah. So that's the main point that I have. It was brought up, never to be heard of again.
That's actually a pretty good and reasonable one. Not to say that most of your stuff isn't good or reasonable. I'm just like, that's actually a really like good, reasonable, like like not complaint, but like just critique of the story. It's like, what the fuck, like it's like what's that Not Schrödinger. It's not Schrödinger's
I was
cat.
gonna say it's like the opposite of Schrödinger's shotgun.
No, there's actually a narrative device, and I can't remember the author that brought it up, but basically, somebody's gun. Like if you introduce a gun in the first act,
Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, Chekhov. Thank you. Yes, yeah, Chekhov's gun. It's like Chekhov's gun. If you introduce a gun at the beginning in the first act, you better use it at some point, or it better come back at some point in the rest of the story.
Yes. Well, this one, it's like, we're introducing this and we're never going to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Gamer, what do you got?
Let's see what I have left. My first note is in regards to them breaking all the windows in the chapel to let sunlight in so they can see. Katie packed a flashlight.
Yep. And
Jamie
Jamie has a lighter. No,
they didn't use the flashlight until they got into the basement.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So
where's that flashlight? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's like, so where's that flashlight? In the church.
Yeah. And also, don't they drop the flashlight like in the bottom area and then they run back up the stairs and it's dark out, so they're basically in complete darkness because there's no mention of the moon?
Pretty much.
For the most part.
Yeah.
So in that case, how can they see the top of the demon's head coming up the stairs?
Yeah.
You're not wrong. Was the flashlight dropped down there?
Yeah, it was. Remember, like she dropped
actually,
it. Hang on. Yeah.
Was spooked, and then they ran.
I gotta have to look up the story again. Hang on. I gotta check the. That was probably like page like 10 or 12.
That means nothing to me. I'm reading it on the website.
I know.
I'm gonna try to find it though.
Katie the windows. So sorry. I moved the beam of light from Jamie's face. And it was staring at me. I cannot describe the face. It shook me to my core. My body was dark, visceral. I found it. Cool.
Yeah. I dropped the flashlight. Jamie dropped everything else and we ran. We took the stairs 2 and 3 at a time.
Okay, yeah. So they dropped everything.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like a little bit of light coming in upstairs because they broke the windows. It let a little bit in. And clearly they didn't need the flashlight up there. They haven't been using it the whole time because it's the middle of the day or something, even though it's not. But yeah, it's weird. And it does say like the place seemed to repel light, but that might just be an exaggeration. Because like if they were up there and they used the flashlight and the flashlight was barely working, so then they're like, okay, let's try to get some more light in. That would make more sense. And then that would like kind of make us feel like maybe there's a supernatural darkness going on up here. But yeah, we don't really have much about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that dark gloom that's like in the center of the church kind of just also goes nowhere. Like I guess maybe it's just like the creature emits like an area of effect that's just like a creepy atmosphere. But which is weird because like the vibe that Katie was getting from the church was like that of like, this is like hallowed ground or this is sacred ground. They shouldn't be tampering here. Mm-hmm. Whereas it seemed like it was sort of the opposite, but like maybe above it was like sacred ground and that it had been like warded by like some priests or wizards or whatever to keep the demon at bay.
Yes.
Underneath it kind of thing. But
yes, I'll move on.
Yeah.
This is in regards to describing the Jesus statue.
Mm-hmm.
The details of his face were so incredibly minute and perfect. He had the same accusing eyes as portraits in the pastor's office. He seemed to be staring directly at me, and I could tell Jamie felt the same, though he was across the room from me. The statue stare awarded me an edge. I wasn't aware this was Shadowrun. Sorry, and it awarded me an edge of panic, is what it says.
Oh, okay, yeah. The word is like, take an edge.
Thanks, Jesus.
No. Roll a composure test, and then take an edge.
Yes. And then we get to this area where they're kind of describing the inside of the chapel.
Yeah.
So I wasn't aware of the terminology of things as you were bringing it up before.
Mm.
But for me, it was really confusing going through describing the entirety of the upstairs, or the main floor rather, because I wasn't aware of where the quote unquote front of the chapel was. Like what I got from the story, the way he was saying, I got what the story was trying to say in regards to it was at the front of the chapel, but the wording of it had my head thinking completely different. Because like when I was hearing it, it was from their viewpoint at the back of the church because they came in from the back.
Yeah.
So I assumed that the front meant the front of the building, aka the front doors. So like the statue of Jesus was like beside or over the front door. However, this is due to my own ignorance, since Googling it, the quote-unquote front of the chapel is where the podium is. Like,
which is
where
really
the pastor
weird.
stands, which is at the back of the chapel.
Yeah, that's what that it's not really. I understand your confusion 100% because there are two fronts and backs of a church.
I hate it.
The front of the church, like on the outside, is the front doors, like where people come in for the congregation. And the back is like the back of the church on the outside, where the reliquary or the or where the offices for the priests and stuff like that are in the back of the church. But when you're inside that congregational nave,
yeah,
that is suddenly things flip around, and the front of the church inside is at the podium, and the back of the church is by where the front doors are.
I hate it.
I hate
it so much.
So fucking annoying.
The way that it was describing it, this is what it felt like. Like I kind of have a rough idea of like there's a podium, and then on either side, or maybe just one side, there's a door to the back. Okay, so they come out that door to the back, but they enter the front.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was about to like correct you, like be a smartass. It's like, don't you mean they went through the front door? the door to the front.
Yeah.
No, it's so like topsy turvy.
The wording of that is horrible.
Yeah.
But I learned a thing, I guess. Hooray.
Yeah,